So we're going to move on to RNG and me, a peek behind the random number generator curtain. So yeah, will blockchain gaming make random number generation become a part of your everyday life? This panel will discuss all the interesting hoopla around keeping the RNG mechanism secure. What is Chainlink VRF, and how is it going to enable the next generation of verifiable randomness on chain? Oliver, take it away.
Sure thing. Thanks, Dustin. So thank you all for joining today's session. As Dustin said, I'm RNG and me, a peek behind the random number generator curtain. My name is Oliver and I'm with Chainlink. I will be the moderator for this panel. And in today's session, we'll be covering randomness in gaming, the importance of provably fair randomness, Chainlink VRF, and interesting topics within randomness, which is often overlooked. So now I'd like to welcome our incredible panelists who have been helping build some of the key foundations for blockchain gaming. Justin Wu, co-founder of BED Protocol, Savas Lassapoulos, CEO of Blockpegnio, and Craig Russo, lead at Polyant Games. So Justin, why don't you get started? Tell us a little bit about yourself and BED Protocol, and then Savas and Craig can take it over after.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Justin Wu. I'm one of the co-founders of BED Protocol, and I handle operations. And BED Protocol is a fully customizable white label solution for launching and managing online gaming applications, such as esports betting applications or casinos. And essentially what we do is we give you all the tools and all the technology that you need in order to run and manage a fully compliant, crypto-ready online gaming application in esports or in casino. So that's all the games you need, all the back office you need. And we help basically everything. You can think of us almost as like a Shopify or WordPress for online gaming apps. And that's what we do.
Awesome. Craig, do you want to give an overview?
I'm Craig Russo. I'm with Polyant Games. We're an investment group focused on the non-fungible token asset class. Obviously, one of the major applications of which being blockchain gaming. So we have a direct investment group as well as a startup ecosystem, which a lot of the Chainlink integrations will exist within there. So happy to talk about that.
Awesome. Savas, give a little introduction and what you're doing at
Hello, thanks for having me here today. I'm Savas Lassapoulos. I'm from Greece. I'm the founder of Blockpegnio. It's a company which our main focus is to make real games on blockchain, but also help other companies migrate their games to blockchain as well. Currently, our main focus is our flagship title, The Six Dragons, which is in open alpha and runs on Ethereum mainnet using the Engine platform.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for very insightful information from all of you. And I'm excited to continue to follow your development in the gaming ecosystem. So now let's get started with some questions about randomness. And the first one I'd like to ask everyone is, do you think provably fair randomness is the next big thing for gaming? And if so, why? Anyone want to go first with this?
Yeah, I would say provably fair gaming is definitely something that's extremely important, especially when you're talking about the difference between the legacy online gaming space and the emerging blockchain online gaming space with regards to like casino and esports, but mostly for casino. I mean, if you look at the demographics of the legacy online gaming space, you see a lot of the baby boom generation there. But now you see the millennial generation really taking over in terms of the size of that particular market segment, and our generation, part of this generation as well. But I mean, we really like to verify things ourselves, and just not take somebody's word for it. Really get the information firsthand. So I think being able to like in real time verify something is provably fair, especially when you're betting money like on a coin flip game or in a virtual roulette or something. It's something that is a huge value add, considering that a lot of the legacy online gaming space, people are gaming more or less in a black box. They don't really know the RNG behind it is provably fair, even if it's certified or not, which most of them are, of course. it's very, very different when you can actually verify it yourself in real time and see the cryptographic proof. So, I mean, that's definitely a huge value right there.
Completely
Yeah,
agree with you, Justin.
Yeah,
So
I can add to that. So more on the traditional gaming side of things, with the emergence of blockchain gaming, essentially games which traditionally exist in silos are opening up to a larger ecosystem. And the fact that the assets themselves within games are beginning to be represented on chain, the whole gaming experience becomes far more important from an asset perspective in terms of the scarcity, the supply, the experiences enabled by the unique asset combinations. And so ultimately having that on-chain proof that gives the users the trust necessary in order to have this upfront investment, this sweat equity, and most oftentimes now actual capital deployment into games, so that their experience long term won't ultimately become for naught. So essentially, with the emergence of these internal game economies, it becomes ever more important for aspects of randomness to be probable and trustworthy, so that the experiences themselves don't collapse internally, because once users don't trust the assets and the randomness that occurs in games, that's where a lot of issues of is this being gamed? Am I wasting my money and time? So it's really the next step to facilitate these new generations of games that we hope to have real world assets and tradable assets inside of.
Yeah, Greg and covered pretty much everything. But as a gamer myself, I always remember having doubts about the randomness of the games. I was playing myself, and it's in our nature as humans to question variance in casinos and games and everything. When it goes back, we can't forget when it was good. So having provable fair on-chain randomness evaporates that doubt from the player, and they can feel confident about their efforts that it's been translated into a fair outcome.
Absolutely.
Exactly, and essentially, that is what Chainlink VRF is. So I think for the next question, I'd like if you could explain how Chainlink plays a role in your underlying architecture, as well as the importance of oracles to your smart contracts.
Yeah, I think when you're building something that's completely on-chain, in terms of like imagine a totally on-chain casino or a betting app, you need to have some sort of a verifiable source of randomness, and that's what Chainlink VRF does for us at Bet Protocol. As you know, like if you have a roulette or like a slots machine or something that's going on, of course you have the random number generator that is the source of the randomness that helps to basically resolve whatever game that is, whether that it's a win condition or a lose condition for the player. And that can definitely be a central point of failure in a lot of systems. And it could be an area of concern for the player where they have to essentially either play in a black box or make some sort of trust trade-offs that are less than optimal. And I think a lot of the advantages of blockchain and cryptography and blockchain-based systems are that a lot of these systems are trustless, quote unquote, in the sense that the end user doesn't really have to trust so much that the implementation is sound, because they can check and verify themselves. I don't know if I really like the term trustless so much. I prefer trustworthy way more, because like if I can actually go and verify in real time that the VRF is legit myself, I would say that that's pretty trustworthy. Like instead of it being trustless in the sense that in any other sense of the word. But in terms of on the casino side, that's how we're using it. For the esports side, on esports betting, which is going to be a big release for Bet Protocol for sure. We're using Chainlink oracles to provide the esports data, the live and the historical esports data and odds for resolving our esports betting markets. So essentially, what we have is data that's coming from the off-chain world, and it needs to inform markets and smart contracts that are on-chain in order to resolve these markets. And we're basically using Chainlink for that interface.
Awesome. Yeah, I go next. So as I mentioned in the onset, we have a startup ecosystem. It's really a third-party driven ecosystem that's attached to our investment activities. And we actually introduced a very unique asset into this ecosystem, which will be on sale on September 15th, where it's called a PGFK. And now this is a membership and rewards NFT, ERC 721 NFT, that also actually has a coexisting state as an ERC20 that users will be able to switch in between, but I won't get into that. But one of the key components of this PGFK is the concept of stacking, or the more that you hold, the better the rewards outcomes. And that can be anything from reduced trading fees on some of the decks that we're developing to things like random NFT airdrops. And so that's where we're really looking to leverage VRF technology specifically in order to build that layer of trustworthiness that enables users to see, for instance, we drop only 5 of our partners' NFTs to our ecosystem, so that can be probably fair and trustworthy, and people can check that, and so that they understand, like, hey, I didn't receive it, but it was for a reason. It was completely random. And so I think that component of this next generation of things, everything from in ecosystem airdrops, things like loot boxes, all these kind of fundamental things that drive internal game economies and larger, game ecosystems as we'll progress here, it's just going to be an integral component. And so we hope via our initial implementation of these types of concepts is that we can then help inform the startups that we invest in, the startups that are our ecosystem, as to kind of the best practices to facilitate your internal economies. Because again, nothing's existing really in a silo anymore. And so having kind of all these areas covered to build that trustworthiness as the core bedrock to your games and your dApps, your DeFi applications, it's just going to be very important. So yeah, it's starting September 15th.
Thanks, Craig.
Right now, NFTs, we have our flagship game, the Six Dragons, and NFTs are sold like for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. So value right now in NFTs is pretty important. So when you have some features that increase the value of these NFTs and include the randomness in them, it's pretty important to have that proof for the player that uses these features. So, and this is where Chainlink and Oracle's coming. We feed all this data, we need the percentages of these features, and we get the outcome, which is provable on chain. Then we grab that info and we feed the game with that outcome, and the player can always check this proof on chain. In general, like Craig said, like the word next gen a lot, because it is used a lot in gaming. But after many years, I believe that now we can speak about next gen gaming with the introduction of oracles and blockchain in general.
Thanks, Alice. And Craig, given you come across so many different games in the industry, would you say that you agree with the statement that randomness can be the most powerful tool to use in a game, but also if it's used incorrectly, it can have horrible consequences?
Yeah, I mean, essentially it's about striking the right balance between what you can expect and what you won't expect, right, in a gaming experience. And so I think, that applies not only to the current traditional games, but when you're thinking more along the lines of the output of my gaming, this concepts of like play to earn, there needs to be a fundamental element of randomness so that people can't predict and eventually game these internal economies, because that's ultimately what's, as people become more and more comfortable with, the NFT market, with blockchain gaming, there's gonna be a lot of opportunities for gaming systems. So essentially, as a game developer, as a DeFi developer, a lot of people are treating DeFi as gamified, finance, calling it games almost. It's important to have elements of things that users will not expect, because ultimately that's going to feed into unique reward outcomes that will have better lifespans on the secondary markets, but also having that fine balance with making sure that users don't go into things completely blind every single time, because it's just the replay and retention value will get hurt that way. And so I think it's just finding the right balance, and it's no different than what we have in traditional games, but now it just has that extra complexity associated with these larger worlds and on-chain tracking and NFTs, and it's infinitely more complex, but at the end of the day, it's the same concepts.
So it's a bit like an art. You need to know the amount of randomness and exactly where to implement it. Which
it could be at the asset level. It could be at the quest or experience level. And so there's different things that each, as you're designing a game, it's like designing a puzzle, right? And so these types of things will ultimately make the experiences that collectors and actual investors will want to move into the more blockchain gaming space, which will only fuel these economies.
And Justin, quite curious, since with Bet Protocol, you must have come across this quite a bit. Wondering which incidences with poor implementation of randomness have you seen pop up the most in the industry, and how do you see provably on-chain randomness, like VRF, becoming the new norm for blockchain gaming?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the implementation of how the games actually interact with the source of randomness. I think when you have something like an online variant of a real-world game, it needs to, play like that actual game. Like you can't have a coin flip that always lands on heads for whatever reason. It doesn't matter whatever the source is, or you can't have like a roulette wheel that has 3 different colors when it only shows 2 or something like that. It can't be something crazy like that. So there needs to be like an actual connect between the real world game itself and its online variant as well. That's something that's very important, no matter what the randomness source is behind that. So that's definitely very important. And in the legacy space as well, there are a lot of instances where slot machines have this thing called a near miss, where of course the player still loses, but the player then is tricked into thinking like, oh, they only missed by a little bit, so maybe if they bet again, like they're going to win next time, which of course is a fallacy, right? So this is like one of these reasons why the randomness is very important, of course, and the randomness needs to be provably fair, but then also the implementation and the use of that randomness needs to also be in a way that is fair and also consistent with real world games, and also with some sense of morality, in the sense that it shouldn't be telling you that you almost won when in fact you didn't. So it's something that definitely needs to be addressed, especially in the online gaming space on top of the blockchain, because I think we as blockchain pioneers, we kind of have this responsibility to say, we're the ones that are pushing the technology forward, and we're the ones that are building the vision for this new paradigm of online gaming. Because the people that I talk to in traditional online gaming, and then also in the conferences and things back when they were having conferences, everyone was talking about blockchain and how it was going to disrupt massively online gaming, and we're already seeing it there. And since we're the ones here, I think it really we have the responsibility to implement it well, and to use great tools like Chainlink VRF and oracles to get data and resolve markets.
Thanks, Justin. I think we've run out of time, so I appreciate you all for joining today's session. Panelists, it's Craig, Justin, Savas. It's been awesome talking to you, and look forward to future panels and collaborations.
Absolutely. Thanks, Oliver. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you very much,
guys.